I just get tired of crashing and burning. I get tired of making mistakes and getting up and moving forward. I get tired of getting so many scars on me. And, I got to a point in my life before I met Sky, before I had the baptism, where I'd had enough. I was sick and tired of myself. You know what I mean? Just the two people in here, my real self and the ego. I was sick and tired of myself. I was saved when I was 14 years old. I accepted Christ as my Savior with a youth group where I used to play guitar so all the kids could sing. That's how I was drug into the youth group. They needed a guitar player. And so I was saved when I was 14, but I basically derailed. I really didn't understand the power, in being a believer at that time. So, I went through my teen years and then got in the crazy wrestling business, which derailed me even more. Finally, I just get tired of crashing and burning. I get tired of making mistakes and getting up and moving forward. I get tired of getting so many scars on me and moving forward. And it was a situation where I found myself deep in prayer. And I got to the point where I was married a couple times, and they were the wrong partners because they weren't true believers. They weren't dialed in, And so when I met Sky, everything just felt right. The chemistry and everything just felt right.
And she was baptized with you, by the way.
Right, yeah. With our kids too. Yeah. And so when I met her, things started to change because I was very aggressive from the wrestling. I got along great, most of the time with people, but then if things were going my way, I didn't have patience, and I had like a trigger finger. I'd pull the trigger really quick. And so, once I met Sky and she started explaining to me how the Holy Spirit took her over on this bridge that you can see out this window here, the Clearwater Bridge. And the more we talked, the more I started getting, she actually calmed me down with this turbulence that I have inside of me and made me feel more at peace. We just decided to go ahead and get baptized and let the whole world know the truth that we knew. And we got really close with Pastor Aaron at Indian Rocks Christian Church.
Who we'll meet shortly.
Yes, I can't wait for you to meet him. He's the main eventer, brother. And so that's kind of how it went down. We just got to the point we wanted to let everyone know, that, and especially her children, I wanted them to understand that I was just not a boyfriend. I was someone that wanted to be in their life and be a friend and kind of like a stepfather to them and make things really positive. And we just got baptized, and it's been just a whole new deal ever since.
You feel it since
brother,
that day?
It's just amazing. I wake
feel
up,
the difference.
Yeah, I'm much more at peace with myself, and when things come at me, it's not something that's urgent. It doesn't make sense anymore to put that type of worry and stress. It's just pretty much gone away now.
Throughout your career, I would say you were a witness for Christ in the ring. As a little kid, I remember, and all through my teen years, you would say on camera to millions of people around the world, say your prayers and eat your vitamins, train, say your prayers. You would always thank God. And let me tell you, as a young kid, that had a profound influence on me. If Hulk Hogan is telling me to say my prayers, I'm going to get on my knees every night at bedtime and say my prayers. So I want you to know the difference you made in my life and just kids around the world, even before getting baptized. And this is so exciting. It's awesome. And I can't wait to see what God's going to do in your life. But the 40-year anniversary of the birth of Hulkamania, January 23rd, 1984, you said earlier, iron sharpens iron, amen. But the Iron Sheik was your opponent on that night. You win the belt, and Hulkamania begins 40 years ago. As you look back, kind of looking back, kind of a career retrospective almost, and now you're at this moment. Tell us how that feels 40 years on, and you're still going strong and the best days lie ahead.
Well, I realized that was just a platform, to get me in the position where I could be used by my Lord and Savior to tell the truth and spread the word. So, the Hulkamania character of Hulk Hogan was impeccable. I mean, the training, prayers, vitamins, believe in yourself, brother, the 4 commandments, was something that was real organic coming out of me. And as I said it, the character was impeccable and actually made me, Terry, a better person as the years went along. It attracted Make-A-Wish kids, which at first I didn't understand, what is this role model thing? Why is this happening? Then I was happy it was happening, and then in the twilight of my career, a few years back when I got done wrestling, and even today, I thank God it's still happening. You know, there was Mickey Mouse and Mr. T, and they wanted to see Hulk Hogan more than all the other individuals. So as all that went through, it brought me up to becoming a better person. And now that we're at this point in my life, I realize that it was just a setup for what I need to do now. And it's just been such a great transition, because God takes people out of your life that aren't supposed to be there, and he brings the right people in. And so at this point, I was always a believer, but I didn't completely surrender. I thought I could drive better than he could. I thought I could make the decisions better than he could. And he takes his hands off the wheel and says, okay, you think you can do it better? Go ahead and do it. So like I said, I get tired of crashing and burning. And at this point, with that 40-year career behind me and that whole platform, I understand now that was just a temporary situation to set me up for this next run, because in the wrestling business, everything's a run. How long were you a main event guy? 4 or 5 years, like some guys? Or how long did your career last? 2 or 3 years? Well, mine lasted almost 40 years. And now that run's over, I'm getting ready to start this new run. And so now I realize why I'm here and why all that happened.
So take us back to growing up in this area, the Tampa, Clearwater area, your family, your early journey, how you got into the game. You're a big Dusty Rhodes fan, I know, but you were a rocker, you were a musician. That was maybe your first love. Tell us about your childhood, your upbringing a little bit.
Well, I grew up right across the bridge in South Tampa, and I started out going to Ballast Point Elementary School, and all the kids across the street was Ballast Point Baptist Church. So all the kids, in elementary school would go there, and we lived a little bit of a distance from the church. And so I had my parents take me there one Sunday. And after that, they didn't go back to the church, but I rode my bike there every Sunday, So that's where I kind of got in tune with the Baptist church. But growing up around the area, I went to Monroe Junior High School, then Robinson High School, and all those were south of Gandy. And when you're south of Gandy Boulevard, you were called a SOG, south of Gandy. Okay. And when you're south of Gandy, your career options were construction, drug dealer, or athlete. And those were the choices you had. Growing up around that area, I got real interested in playing guitar, because my mom played the piano and she taught some of the kids around the neighborhood how to play. So I get interested in music, but the whole time I was watching wrestling, And so, I got in a little teeny garage band, and the first time we had a chance to play for like $200 for a birthday party, oh my gosh, I can make money doing this? Yeah. Bing, light goes off in my head. So anyway, I got better and better playing guitar, and went through several bands, started making really good money with the music, and the whole time watching wrestling. And so after about 10 years of playing music and going the same circuits and just getting small raises year after year after year, it was a situation where I told all the guys in the band, we were practicing down in Ybor City, and there was a guy there with a band called Blues Image, and they had a song called Ride Captain Ride. Yeah. And I played the track line for that song. And I don't know if they used the track line or replayed with in a studio with a guy that played the exact same part I did. After I went and did that, the guy Mike Panera, the head of the band Blues Image, was talking about they were going on the road and this and that and the other, and there was an opportunity for us to open for them in Blackfoot. So I went back and I told my guys there's a chance to go on the road. One guy just got married, another guy's girlfriend was pregnant, they didn't want to leave, so I said, that's it, I'm quitting. I'm gonna be the greatest professional, I don't know why I said it, but I said it. I said, I'm gonna be the greatest professional wrestler that ever lived. And all the guys in the band fell down on the ground laughing. And that really made me mad.
Now you were at the time, 6'7", close to 300 pounds.
Well, no, I was tall.
You had the size.
I was 6'7", before all the back surgery and all the stuff. And I was in really good shape, but I was probably about 250 or 255. maybe 260, I don't know. But from that point, you know, growing up here, watching wrestling, being a big Dusty Rhodes fan and being a big wrestling fan, my dad would take me to the Armory, Fort Homer Hesterly Armory, 3,000 or 4,000 people, and I got hypnotized when I was in there. And I thought I could do it, but never really thought about it until I verbally said it to the band members, because I was kind of mad at them, you know, because they didn't want to go on the road.
You almost spoke it into existence.
Yeah, so one thing led to another. I went down for a tryout. They broke my leg the first day.
Wow.
And said, don't ever come back. You know, and they got between my legs, and the guy put his elbow on my shin, grabbed my toe, posted my leg, and snapped my leg. And so, you know, I went home, and about 4 months later, the mindset was, never let anybody hurt me again.
Yeah.
So I went back, and they spent a couple years training me, teach me how to wrestle the submission stuff. And
many people wouldn't have gone back. I mean, well, a lot of people would have, after a broken leg on the first day, would have called it quits.
The problem was I had ran my mouth so much, and this is a small town, and I ran my mouth so much that I'm going to be a wrestler, and which I never should have done. I could have probably humbly disappeared, but I'd ran my mouth so much, you know, I had to save face at the time for whatever that mindset was.
Right.
And I went back, and they spent a couple years training me how to really take care of myself, and a lot of the UFC stuff, you know, the submissions and the hooks, the breaking bones and stuff. Which after a couple of years, you know, of doing that and being in the dojo with Hiro Matsuda, and they told me that this is what wrestling was all about, I actually started crying. I thought they were joking, because they said, well, Eddie Graham, the promoter's coming down, he's going to work out with you. I'm going, oh my gosh. You know, I've been getting beat up by all these preliminary guys. Now Eddie Graham, the promoter's going to come down. He's going to kill me. I'm never going to survive this. He taught me how to hit the ropes and grab a headlock without hurting people, and I just broke down. I couldn't believe that they had conned me for so long, and I'd believed that this wrestling was real, because, you know, the way they were beating on me, it was real.
Yeah.
So that's like the transition, you know, from growing up here, being a fan, playing music, it all just parlayed one thing after another, and next thing I knew, I was in Madison Square Garden.
Man. Winning the belt. Even you were in the Garden even before that.
Yeah. Well, in '78 we sold out Shea Stadium, you know, with me and Andre, and it was huge back then, you know, and that's when I started really realizing, okay, I'm starting to figure this stuff out now.
Yeah. As you went along in the business, how did you develop your persona? You saw what people responded to. How did you kind of, because that's obviously a key element in wrestling, in the wrestling business. You got to find your I don't want to say gimmick. They throw that term around, but your persona. Your persona. How did you become Hulk Hogan?
A lot of transitions. You know, started out as a super destroyer with a mask on, because they said, "Oh, you're a big guy. You might be something someday. We don't want to beat you every night and have them see your face, because your career will be ruined before it even starts." So, started out as a super destroyer, quit after all that, and went
paying your dues.
Yeah, and then I became Terry Boulder for a while, and then became Terry the Hulk Boulder, and that lasted for a little while. Then I went to Atlanta, and the promoter there named me Sterling Golden, and that lasted for a short while. I think I was wrestling 13 or 14 times a week, and I think I was making $125 a week. So I quit doing that, and finally when I came back home, a couple real popular wrestlers here, Jack and Jerry Briscoe, said, "There's this guy, Vince McMahon's calling you." I was like, I'm not wrestling anymore. I quit. I don't want anything to do with this. They said, "No, New York, the New Jersey area," which was a territory back then, it wasn't international. They said, "This territory around New York, Madison Square Garden, is for all the big guys." And I've been training with weights, and I was 285, 290 in really good shape. And so I went up there, and Vince McMahon Sr. had his glasses halfway down on his nose, and he clicks quarters together when he talks to you, you know. He goes, "Well, I've got Pedro Morales for the Puerto Rican Americans, and I've got Chief Jay Strongbow for the Native Americans, you know, however you say it, and Bruno Sammartino for the Italian Americans. And I want you to be, instead of Terry the Hulk Boulder, I want you to be Hulk Hogan for the Irish Americans. And here's 2 bottles of red dye to dye your hair red." And I went, oh my God, I'm going bald-headed as it is. If I put this red dye in my hair, the party's over. So I told Fred Blassie, who they put him with me, that I couldn't do it. I poured it down the toilet in the Holiday Inn on 48th and 8th in New York. And Fred goes, "That's it, you're getting fired." You know, so when I went back to see Vince McMahon for TV the next day, my hair wasn't ready. He goes, "Oh, don't worry about it, you're fine." And he just let it go. So that's kind of like how the whole transition went from growing up here, being a wrestling fan, playing music, and how it morphed into this Hulkamania thing.
So it took several years, man, but your resilience.
Yeah, it took about 8 years before I got a break. You know, I slept in my van for the first couple of years, you know. And the Wild Samoans, we were on Pensacola, they would sleep in their van on the beach. I'd pull up next to them, you know.
The Wild Samoans, Afa and Sika.
And you know them all, yeah.
I'm old school.
Yeah, they took me under their wing when I first went up there because I wasn't too dependable when I was younger. So they kind of guided me a little bit.
Most of us weren't. Would you say Andre kind of passed the torch to you in the business, in a sense? He was obviously a megastar.
He basically taught me this business. He straightened me out because when I got in the business, I was in my 20s and wasn't serious, wasn't focused, you know, and just didn't understand what this business was really all about. That wrestling was the smallest part of this business. You know, the image, the promotion, the merchandise, the ancillary stuff, the licensing, how big this business could be. And Andre was really the first sports entertainer. If he'd have been a serious wrestler, nobody would have ever beat him, and he'd have been the world's champion until the day he passed away. So, you know, Andre took me under his wing and kind of like made me grow up really fast. So like the first 8 years when I had to be around him at wrestling, if I was coming up the Philadelphia Spectrum, when I'd see the building, I knew I had to wrestle Andre, I'd pull the car over, open the door, and get sick because I was afraid of him because, you know, I knew it was physically going to be something that wasn't going to be fun that night, you know. And so finally he took me under his wing and he got me correct where I respected and understood this business. Wow. And then when it came time for WrestleMania 3, I would always know who would win or lose, and that night we had no idea. And I asked Vince McMahon, "What's the finish of this match?" He goes, "Well, I talked to Andre," and he says, "Don't worry." I'm like, "Oh boy, I'm worried." And so I went through that all day with him, you know, and hung out with him in the back and would ask him, "Hey, you know, should we do this or that?" And, you know, "Oh, don't worry." And what he had taught me over the years was don't talk about the wrestling match. You just need to know who's going to win or lose. This is an art form like dancing or playing guitar. You got to listen to the crowd and listen with your heart. Yeah. Because a lot of wrestlers will sit down and they'll talk for 20 minutes about having a 3-minute match on TV. And what happens if the stuff you talked about doesn't work and the people don't get into it? You're going to keep doing the same thing you talked about that's wrong. So Andre taught me how to have instinct and listen with my heart and my ear to the crowd, what they wanted. So when I started asking him at WrestleMania 3, "What do you want to do?" I kind of feel now I kind of insulted him because I never had asked him before. But this time I didn't know who was going to win. So I was like, what's going on here? You know, what am I getting set up for? And at the end of the day, he passed the torch. When I slammed him and dropped the leg on him, I thought for sure he'd kick out. And he didn't.
You still didn't know?
No. And
that
he
is
didn't.
Crazy.
And believe me, I was a nervous wreck.
And you really, I mean, you got him up. It wasn't kind of a half slam. He was up.
Yeah, I got him.
He was up.
He was closer to 700 pounds in because he was really, really unhealthy at the time. And because he went from, like, they said 500 pounds, John. He was never 500. He was between 550 and 650. But he just went through a crazy back surgery where they had to make tables, they had to make instruments to work on him. And he was in a lot of pain. He gained a lot of weight. So when he passed the torch that night, he basically made my career and made the wrestling business. And he just handed it all to me to protect it and take care of it.
I never knew that even when you dropped a big leg, you thought,
I thought he was going to kick
out?
If you look at it again, I really didn't even try to cover him. I just halfway laid on him.
Wow.
Just a lazy cover because I thought he'd just kick right out.
What did he say afterwards? Did he say anything? Did he recognize the gravity of the moment?
Yeah, once I rolled off, I went, "Thank you, boss." And he goes, "You're the boss." And so he kind of like said that to me. And, you know, the only person I told that to was Vince, you know, because it was such a special thing. Yeah. You know, I said, "Thanks, boss." He goes, "You're the boss." And I went, "Oh, wow, that's kind of scary."
1982, Rocky III. Now, for me and for many, that was probably their first exposure to Hulk Hogan. You starred alongside, of course, Sylvester Stallone and Mr. T. And we talk about things coming full circle with some of your former colleagues here at your church counseling you. Hey, your co-stars, Sylvester Stallone and Mr. T, are both professing Christians. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they still are as we speak. You know, Mr. T is probably one of the most outspoken Christians I've ever met.
He's a TBN regular.
Yeah.
And did you see, I mean, this is 82, did you see a possibility at the time that these, and Stallone, look, famous guy, Mr. T, obviously very famous. Who would have thought, I guess, that you'd all be here now publicly professing faith in Jesus?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, the thing with T is, he is what he is. Mr. T is Mr. T, and, you know, he lays it right out for you.
Yeah.
And just like Stallone, Sly's the same guy he was back then. He hasn't changed a bit. You know, he has his faith and he has his will, and he's the same exact guy, and none of this got to him. None of the success, none of the, you know, stardom, none of it changed who he was. So it's really cool to see these guys.
Love it. There's obviously peaks and valleys in life. You know, you had some valleys there, of course.
Yeah.
Did you feel God's presence at all? Did he feel distant? At times, did you cry out and say, God, what's going on here? When am I going to break through? Were there moments like that for you?
Well, he was with me through all that stuff, and I know that now because he turned setbacks into setups for greatness for me. Simply because I was in control and I was driving the car. Once again, crashed and burned. I made those mistakes. You know, you can blame situations, conditions. Your rationale can have 100 reasons why things happen, but at the end of the day, it's about choices. And I'm not real good, or I wasn't real good at making good choices because of the environment and everything that was going on. And so once I decided to quit driving the car myself and surrender, he took those mistakes I made. I learned from him. He taught me how to get up with this monster hit that I just took and be honest and truthful and move forward. So all those things in the past that happened to me, you know, I tell Sky, I'm like the old scarred up SEAL. You know, that's been in 20 million battles and I've got scars all over me. And I feel, you know, that I'm not a poser because, you know, knowing of Jesus and knowing him are two different things.
That's true.
You know, and so at this point, knowing him and being one with him, I think all these scars and all these things I've been through, not that I'm leading by example, but I've been made an example of for people that think I'm not correct, or I don't have my act cleaned up, or I can't do this. I think all those people that have all the excuses for being in the wrong place at the wrong time or not being good enough, you don't need to be cleaned up. Come to him, he'll clean you up. So that's kind of like, when you talk about those valleys and those low points, they happen for a reason to make me who I am today. So I don't regret any of it, even though if I had a choice to do it over again, I wouldn't, you know? But all those things that happen, I think they're the reason I'm sitting here today with you. Moving forward, it's been just an incredible journey with the people that are around me. Like we spoke earlier, God takes people away from you that don't belong in your life and brings people to you. You know, along with Sky and Ron Howard, who basically got dialed into his faith, quit drinking alcohol a few years ago, was a huge influence on my life because he walked in my gym one time and I had a stack. I don't know if you know what White Claws are.
Yeah.
I had a stack of them up in my gym, you know, probably 10 or 12 cases. And he walked in, he goes, "Who do you serve?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You serve the Lord, or you serve that?" Wow. I went, "Okay. You don't have to tell me twice. I got it." You know, so he was a huge influence on me, kind of like when I saw him get correct, I'm like, that's impossible. You know, there's no way, you know, almost famous Ron Howard is going to get correct, but he did, you know, and he straightened out his marriage, his life, and just everything, you know. So to watch him get correct was something else that was an extra push for me, you know, to regroup and get on track. So everybody's come together, you know, and the time for me is just so amazing because going to be important to me moving forward is being the vessel to spread this message, because it's the only truth there is. Everything else is just temporary. You know, everything, the fame, the money, the ego, the physical, everything is just temporary. And once you get that and you realize that, it's so important that you make other people understand that that's the only truth there is. So moving forward, that's the first foremost thought on my mind, is to being a messenger for my Lord and Savior. That's going to take me where I need to go.